Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mehak. I hope you guys are all fine, and like always, I also hope that you guys are reading. Back with the book of the week. Now, first of all, apologies, this review is delayed. Almost posting after 2 weeks. I was traveling and then fell sick. Right now also I have some cold, so excuse me if I sound weird, but the book that was giving me company past 2 weeks was Smoke and Mirrors. It's an experience of China by Pallavi Iyer. Now this is my second book by the author, and I thoroughly enjoy her books. The last book that I read was Orienting in Japan. This book was about Pallavi's in-depth experiences and the days that she spent in Japan, and much like that book, this book talks about her days, or rather years. She spent about 5 years in China, so it's essentially about an Indian's experiences in China, very first hand. Now, what I enjoy about Pallavi's books is that they're not like your usual travelogue or memoir. It's so much more, because she gives such an intimate insights into the particular country that she's visiting, their the political landscape during the time that she visits, about the society, the cultural, the human interactions, what those look like, food. I mean, in Japan, when I read Orienting in Japan, that book talked about food as well. So that's why I enjoy her books, because then it makes the entire read very engrossing and interesting, as it's very intimate insights rather than a travelogue or a memoir that talks about this is the place that you should go, these are the sites that you must visit. So it's much more than that. Now, talking about this book, so Pallavi visits China between 2002 to 2007. So I know a lot of information is outdated in the current times, like we are in 2024, but some of the things, I think the context remains the same. And if you're someone like me who's always been very interested or curious about China, then I would definitely recommend this book. So in 2002, Pallavi was a young Indian woman, and she gets invited, she gets a job opportunity in Beijing Broadcasting Institute, where she has to essentially come and teach English. She has to teach journalism kids, and before this time, she doesn't really have any knowledge about China other than the stereotypes that she's heard of. So she's not aware of the culture, of the people, and how the society is like. So when she comes, her first encounter is with her journalism kids. Now, that particular chapter was very interesting, because Pallavi, talks about how her journalism kids were really very ignorant about the societal problems. So, when she tried sparking interest in them about some of the controversial topics, she was quite surprised, and in a bad way, when she realized that they weren't even aware about that Dalai Lama had won the Nobel Peace Prize. In fact, for her it was an irony, because she was teaching about journalism in a country where press was really controlled, which was, very contrasting to the landscape in India, where we have a very critical media landscape. So she went in with those kind of expectations, but I think the only rights, like she mentions in the book, the only rights that her students were concerned with were the right to dress the way they want, the right to date whoever they want, the right to an apartment, or all the luxuries or plastic surgeries, really being ignorant of some of the deeper rooted societal problems in China. In fact, so she's spoken about a lot of first-hand experiences, and one of these experiences she talks about is that when she's going around the city with the student, and she spots a poor woman who aggressively comes and asks Pallavi for some change, the student really shouts at the beggar, and later on apologizes to Pallavi, not because there is poverty in China, but because as a foreigner she had to see that there are poor people around, which was very, again, different for Pallavi. So it's like one nation is not hiding that problem. Like India has poverty and it's out there for people, and the other nation, while it has it, it's very good in hiding it. So a very interesting fact that I read in the book, that China has this system wherein they residentship, where they do not allow peasants and poor people to migrate from some smaller cities, or I would say like how in India we have the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, to migrate to the metro cities. So as a foreigner, you might really not see poverty in China when you go there. So besides this, there are various things that she has spoken about in the book. Interestingly, when she went to China, China was in the phase that it was really transforming. They just won the bid to host the Olympics in 2008, and so the entire city, Beijing, was going under a makeover to host Olympics in 2008. And she talks about, you know, how the city was constantly changing. The structures were broken down and new buildings were coming up. But at the same time, she also talks about the psychological impact on the people, as she speaks to the residents, who, you know, talks about how everything is changed and their neighborhood does not look the same anymore. Thereafter, you know, Pallavi was also around China when the SARS pandemic broke. So, you know, she talks about the entire experience, much like coronavirus. When you read about it, you know, everything that people went through and things were shut down, etc. And she talks about, you know, how she was there and she experienced it all, from the government really, you know, downplaying the number of outbreaks in the country, to yet, you know, rubbing the entire building surfaces with vinegar and water mixtures, and how during that time the prices of vinegar really shot up in Beijing. And the discussion, so, you know, she really discusses that during the SARS pandemic, how, you know, various reporters in media channels started reporting about the wildlife consumption in China, which was actually creating problems, you know. So a lot of diseases that were found in animals were jumping from animals to humans. In fact, one of the heartbreaking things that I read in the book, that during the SARS pandemic, one of the news articles spoke about the possible reason for the SARS pandemic could be the wild cats and dogs. And just after that, you know, the author says that, you know, I have seen people slaughtering another human life in India in the name of religion, but it was the first time when I was seeing that people were slaughtering, you know, pet dogs and cats in front of the pet owners. So imagine, you know, if you're a pet owner and, you know, you go out on a walk and you see your pet dog or cat being slaughtered, which was very heartbreaking for me to read. So that was about the SARS pandemic that she went through. She also talks about the Hindi-Chini relationship. So just after the pandemic was ending, it was the first time that the Prime Minister of India traveled to China. So Atal Bihari Vajpayee took the trip to China, and this was the time when, you know, India kind of accepted that Tibet is under the China territory and Sikkim is under India, and this kind of also established the trade relationship between the two countries and how that continues till today. She also touched upon the political landscape between both the countries. She also spoke about, you know, which was again my favorite chapter, because that spoke about the everyday life in China. So for me, whenever I read these books, the interesting aspect is always when the author talks about the everyday lives, what that looks like, you know, because if I'm a person who cannot perhaps now travel to China, it's very interesting to understand what their everyday life looks like. So she speaks about these traditional dwellings in China, which are called the hutong, and how she and her boyfriend, you know, moves to hutong, and, you know, which are very traditional houses or dwellings in China, what they look like, and how people, you know, how the community is very close-knit there, and how their days basically look like, you know. They're beautiful pictures. What I also like about Pallavi, she includes pictures from her travel. I can't show you perhaps now, but yeah, maybe if you can see how her, you know, house looked like. So she has shared how her traditional home in China looked like. So that was again my favorite chapter. She also speaks about how, so during the 5 years, you know, she spent in China, China actually became the 4th largest economy in the world. It also became the manufacturing hub. So there is one chapter dedicated to how China became the factory of the world. And then Pallavi also speaks about how she was the part of a very monumental milestone in China when she was around. That's when the first train from China to Tibet started, Lhasa, and she was one among the few journalists who boarded that train. So, you know, she talks about her journey, what the buzz was before this train started, what the journey looked like, and how the trip went when she was in Tibet. What was it like when she spoke to the Tibetans and the locals around? What were their apprehensions? Were they excited about this train journey? Or, you know, things like, you know, finally they feared that now we would have a smarter or a more intelligent population coming from China to Tibet, taking away their jobs. So things like that. So these are some of the things that the author has spoken about. There are, of course, a few areas that she has touched upon, but these are the major themes. I think personally, I really enjoyed the book. It's an easy read. So if you're someone who's really curious about China or curious about what the life beyond the Himalayas look like, you know, this is the book for you. It's a very easy read. It really kept me company in these last 2 weeks. I was very interested in reading all the days that the author spent in China. I think towards the end, I would just like to quote about author's feeling, because, you know, she kept sharing about how people kept asking her about you know, what did she prefer? Did she prefer India or did she prefer China, and where would she love to stay, and things like that. And she beautifully sums it in the last chapter. So she says, you know, that if I was to be born rich, you know, or from a upper middle class family, then India is what I would choose, because she says that in India, money allowed you to exist happily enough despite the constant failure of governments to deliver services, which we all understand. If you belong to an upper middle class, or if you have money in India, of course you can you know, live happily in spite of all the failures and you know, the letdowns by the infrastructure around you. Whereas on the other hand, she says, were I to be born poor, I would take my chances in authoritarian China. So even we know that even if the China is not a very democratic nation, she says that I would still prefer to be born in China, because this is where, you know, despite lacking a vote, the likelihood of my being decently fed, clothed and housed were considerably higher. Most crucially, China would present me with the relatively greater opportunities for upward socio-economic mobility, so that even though I may have been born poor, there was a better chance I wouldn't die as wretched in China as I was in India. And this is in 2002 that, or you know, 7 that she's talking about. I'm sure the conditions are a lot better and the opportunities are much wider into 2024. So this is what the book covers about majorly. I really enjoyed the book. Let me know if you enjoyed the review and if you will read this book out. I'm going to see you guys next week with another title. Till then, take care, bye bye, and please keep reading.